Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the Scaletrains EMD SD45X. This is the third release of museum quality locomotives from Scaletrains, and Scaletrains has been around the block, as the saying goes. They've been releasing locomotives for several years now, but how do they stack up with a brand new release with an all new tooling, a whole new locomotive? And that's what we're going to look at here. Now, a quick note about my reviews: I have been getting questions about comparing prototype photos, and I will say that I try to avoid that because you should get approval from the people that have taken the photos before you're displaying them on YouTube, and I just don't like to get into that. So I provide you with a 360-degree view of the locomotive running, and a bunch of metrics and testing so that you can make the decision for yourself, because everybody has different tastes on what they accept and what they don't accept from locomotives. Anything glaring is obviously mentioned, but I am no expert by any means on all these different eras. So with that said, let's start on the review of the Scaletrains EMD SD45X right now. We have two variations here, including Southern Pacific on your right and the EMD demo version on your left. The EMD demo versions, when the manufacturer of these locomotives would want to sell them to the railroads, they would put out the locomotive in their colors so that they could see what the locomotive looked like, etc. You have a magnetic flap here on the front, so that just magnetically secures, or you flip it up. Inside is the list of historical information and prototype information. I may cheat off this to make you think I know what I'm talking about. And then we've got the manual here. As we zoom out a little bit so you can see that manual, there are several pages of information on the manual, a total of 15 pages to be exact, including configuration variables, function, programming, notes, lubrication, operation in DC, and talking about the model. The model itself has a foam covering here, and once that's out of the way, you've got your plastic blister packaging. It'll slide right out, and you get a museum quality pin. You can see right there. I'll go ahead and show you that so there's not any glare. But that's a museum quality pin. A lot of people collect pins in our hobby. And then the locomotive itself has those truck immobilizers, so keep an eye on those, because if you try to sit that model down with those still on, sometimes it'll go flop on its side. So I'll get the handrail protection removed. Very hefty locomotive. And we'll check what it looks like a little closer in detail. Okay, we're going to start on the nose and work our way down. You can see the handbrake. That is the crank style handbrake integrated into the nose there. In between the stanchions, obviously the SP light package. They're famously known for all their lights. You've got lights here on in between the number boards, and 3 on the nose. And some of those lights do different functioning, from emergency light to headlight, etc. We'll try to cover that more in the lighting. As you look at the pilot, pretty highly detailed pilot as well, with the silver tipped MU hoses, the MU stand, the drop step, the Scaletrains metal coupler, Scaletrains branded metal coupler, and you've got class lights on the nose as well, separately applied grab irons. Windows on the snowplow for the MU hoses, and your brake line, your airline hose there with silver tipped in as well, sitting right there to the right of the coupler. You've got crew access steps as you work your way up to the cab, which has a 4-window cab in it, and also has very finely detailed windshield wipers that are etched metal. You've got your cab sunshade, bell mounted there on top of the cab roof, horn as well. And you can see the speed recorder and all of the plumbing and sanding lines for the truck detail there, as well as some plumbing in front of the fuel tank and fuel tank shutoff, blower housing there. This is number 9503. There's also some manufacturer labeling there. I believe that's EMD or warning labeling. You've got your blower housing, as we mentioned, dustbin hatch, exhaust, dynamic brake fan area, Southern Pacific there in the center with compartment detail, and that very finely molded in latch detail on all of the compartments along the side. Some more underside plumbing for electrical conduit and fuel lines and such going all the way to the back. I believe that's called an AEI tag. I forget, because it seems like I review so much modern stuff, I forget what that is, but it's like an early barcode system for keeping track of locomotives and rolling stock in that time frame of the SD45X. You've got your flared radiators here, along with 4 radiator fans, 2 panels separated into 2 compartments each on the radiator area. Jacking pad on the rear, and there was one on the front as well, but just pointing out stuff that I mentioned, along with those sanding lines and brake cylinder details on the brake lines and the brakes and the trucks themselves there. You see the side, we've got a sand filler hatch right there, and as we work our way to the back, it's got kind of a flat rear end, and you see the rear lights and the rear class lights, along with the stanchions, the snow plow with the snow plow window, the metal coupler. These are sprung metal couplers, by the way. They do not have the magnetic glad hands on them. You get a good view of the handrails from here, this very back end. You can also see the nice flare of the radiators from this very back view. So the handrails look pretty straight. There's treaded walkways. There's lift rings, as you can see, along the roof. It's trying to focus on the front there, but there's the lift rings a little better, and you can see all the radiator fans and dynamic brake fans lined up there. Get a good look at the compartment detail from this angle as well, and more of the other details that we were talking about, plus AEI tag for this side as well. You have your cab detail, no cab figures installed, but you have your wind deflectors, windshields installed, and windows that can be moved on the back. Very finely detailed windshield wipers on the windows back there as well. So you have a little chain detail molded in here below the cab. And we're back to the front of this locomotive. So I'll zoom out so you can get an entire look at it. And we'll take a 360 of the EMD version and point out some differences. So with the EMD demo version, going to be some very noticeable differences right off the bat, including there's no high-mounted bell here. I do want to mention this brake chain detail I talked about before is a little more easy to see on this version. It's molded in, but it allows separation here with turning, because it's 2 separate pieces, so it's not one entire piece here on this brake chain detail. The front also has a different light configuration. You still have your 2 in between the number boards, but on the nose of this you don't have the tri-lights that are on the SP, though 1 on the top and 2 on the bottom. You do still have your classification lights there on each side of the nose, here and here. And a lot of the same detail we talked about with the MU stand, the MU hoses. There's a coupler cut bar too. So a lot of the same detail in terms of that, but different in terms of configuration for that nose area. And even some roof configuration differences. It looks like there's a vent or air conditioning unit here, another small maybe antenna back there on the roof for the EMD demo version. Obviously it's going to be pretty clear print. That's normal in the industry these days. You are missing both the sunshade and the wind deflectors on this version. That's not like it's missing, it's just that's how the EMD demo was done. So there's a back look at that as well. Not really any changes to the radiator fan or dynamic brake fan configuration, but again there's a look at the handrails. A little bit of a variation in this right hand row here. It kind of kicks out just a little bit, but they are pretty straight. All right, quick look at the roofs here. You see all the radiator fans, the 4 on the end, and then dynamic brake fans there. See-through grills, and you can see the fan blades very easily. That nice EMD blue looks nice as well. So you get a nice top-down view of the roof. A couple other things to talk about on these is you have the early Dash 2 style cab with L-shaped front engineer's window. The interior cab, it's hard to see, but you have a separate floor, rear wall, seats, and standard AAR control stand that lights up. Here's a bottom look as well, so you can see some of the underbody conduit and details and the underside of the truck. Talking about the trucks real quick, these are early Rockwell cast Wreath logo HTC truck frames, Hyatt bearings with speed recorder mounted mounting flanges, and demo has the cantilever center axle snubbers with speed recorder, mounting flanges, sanding lines, and gearbox with individual D77 traction motor and air duct details. So there's some differences obviously in the trucks. So here is your SP version as well. So that's the early Rockwell cast Wreath logo HTC truck frames. First order of business is weight. So we'll take this bad boy and put it on the scale. Be careful picking it up from the dynamic brake fan section. There is a piece that comes off there. I'll show you that later. 640 grams on this. That's 1 pound, 6.6 ounces. That's almost a pound and a half, really. 22.6 ounces total. So 640 grams again. So very, very hefty locomotive at almost a pound and a half. Now real quick, there was a reason I said don't grab from the dynamic brake fan. That exposes the decoder and some of the internal wiring. You do have to remove screws to get the whole shell off, which we won't do. But just like that, that piece just sits down there. Now inside this locomotive is the ESU LokSound 5 DCC decoder. It can operate in DC or DCC. It has 2 cube speakers, and it's got the turbo charged EMD 20-645 prime mover sounds. Looks like I might have to work on getting that on off camera when the camera's not in my way, but curve, squeal, and flank sounds are also on this DCC decoder. And the power pack with 2 super capacitors will allow you to have interrupted track power without the decoder going out and the sound going out on the locomotive. Putting that piece back on, it has snaps, so if you start and kind of curve it onto the body and snap it down, it's fine. I just wanted to show you that, so there weren't conspiracy theories, people thinking I never fixed it. One other detail that's a little tricky to see, but definitely there when we're looking at the underbody detail and the wheels and trucks, is the rust-colored wheel fronts on the trucks there. So that is on both models. I just wanted to show you that. Scaletrains has recently started doing that to their models, which is a nice touch, especially for modelers who want to do weathering and graffiti and all of the grime and such. They don't have to mess with the wheels, which is they're very difficult to weather, the wheels are, with the trucks surrounding them like that. All right, this locomotive is equipped with an ESU LokSound decoder. That means it's going to be a default of address 3 like most manufacturers and most decoders, but F8 is startup on the ESU LokSound decoder, so let's hit that button, F8 for startup. Alright, 1 is headlight, which I'll show you the lighting in the dark here. Or 0 is headlight. 1 is bell. 2 is horn. 'That's just me playing with the responsiveness of the F2 button and doing a grade crossing sequence. Here is 3, which is handbrake. A little hard to hear at first because the compressor was going on in front of it. 4 is dynamic brakes, which under movement is when you'll hear those. You also hear the brake squeal there, flange squeal for going through a turnout. See the rear lights there. There's that flange squeal you get when going through turnouts. You can also see in the cab there that there are cab control lights lit up. Again, I'll show you more of that in the dark. Six is the gyro light and Mars lights, which I'll show you in the dark, but those are in between the number boards. 7's not assigned. 8's startup, like we mentioned. 9 is drive hold. So on 9, if I hit the F9 button, when it's at a certain speed, it'll maintain that speed, and then the throttle increases the prime mover sound or decreases the prime mover sound, all while that speed is remaining the same. 10's independent brakes. I don't know if that's going to make any noise. It doesn't appear to be. 11's radiator fans. 12 is headlight dimmer. That is working. 13's air dryer. 14's number boards off. 15 is UDE light. That is it says big hole light there. So I'll show you that in the dark, but that is functioning. 16's air dryer on shutdown. 17's brake set release. 18's sanding valve. 19's short air let off. 20's air compressor. 21's air dryer. 22's cab door. Let's hit that real quick. 23's engine hood doors. I'll hit that real quick. 24's reverser center. 25's shutters open close. I'll hit that real quick. 26 manually notches up. 27 manually notches down. 28 is a manual notch logic setup. 29 is load simulation. 30 is automatic brake, and 31 is sound fader. So those are your sounds. Now we're going to get this moving at one speed step here and do slow speed control. Alright, we're going to move this into the AccuTrack speedometer out of one speed step of 128 on my NCE Pro Cab. I'll show you slow speed control later. We're just going to get the reading for now. By the way, these were a powerhouse in the 70s. They were built on the longest single-engine platform at the time with an unprecedented 4,200 horsepower out of its 20-cylinder 645 series prime mover. The SD45X basically became a signature locomotive of the SP Railroad. So it was found on heavy mainline freights out of Roseville, California, and they were also seen in consist with other high horsepower SP locomotives, including SD45s, SD45T-2s, and SD40T-2s, but the small fleet size and mechanical oddball status made them essentially defunct by June of 1984, and all were retired and eventually scrapped. So we were at 0.9 scale miles an hour at one speed step. You can see the slow speed control at one speed step. There is some minor lurching, so I'll go to 2 here. And it looks like all of that is now smoothed out for the most part. You get a good solid side view. You can see that truck light, the ground effect light shining down on the truck. Looks like 3 is kind of the magical spot for completely smoothing out any issues with lurching. We'll check reverse here, see if the motor performs the same way. Looks like it's a bit smoother in reverse than it is forward. At 2, we're pretty much completely smoothed out. Some people ask for top speed. Here is top speed, 81 scale miles an hour. I figured I'd use the EMD demo for a pull test so you can see both units in action. So we'll go ahead and move this forward here. Looks like we're approaching 4 ounces. I'm just peaking at about 4. Let's call it 4.25. So 4.25 is approximately 65 freight cars that one single SD45X can pull. Okay, let's go over some lighting features. You obviously have the walkway lights there below the nose by my pinky finger. There are ground effect lights on both sides. The truck or track inspection lights, whatever you want to call them, shining down on the ballast by the trucks. You've got your lit number boards. Those are all lighting features on at the moment. And as I look through the functions here, we're going to go over some additional lighting. Obviously your headlights on F0. There is the headlight lit up. The SP is up front and the EMD is in the rear. F5 is class lights, as you can see there. Those are tricolor, so each press of F5 are going to give you a different color and then eventually off. Red, green, white, and off. 6 is gyro light. As you can see those up top on the SP. And F14 turns the number board lights off separately if you want to do that. Looks like it turns everything off. Alright, F14 kind of nuked all the lights and I could not get them back on without a power cycle. So I had to basically turn track power off and back on, but F14 says number board's off. It's like everything off and not back on. F15 is considered the UDE light, or big hole light. So there you see it flashing there. And that is most of the lighting functions. I've just got a couple other to show you. All right, we talked about startup and how the cab light turned on during startup, so we'll do that real quick. So you have cab light, the other lights come on, and then the track inspection light comes on. Cab light goes off, and then you have your control stand lighting in the cab that goes on. I'll give you a little light for reference there. So there's your control stand lighting. So there are all of your lighting functions of this locomotive. I will show you rear class lights and rear light real quick. So there's your rear class lights, and if I switch direction, there is your rear light, headlight, tail light, whatever you want to call it. So there are your rear functioning lights. Now, some people ask me if the class lights will cycle colors on the rear, and they do. White, green, red, off with the press of F5 again. Since this is an all-new model, we'll hit F8 again so you can hear the shutdown sequence. And there is shutdown. We can do KD coupler height check. Both disconnected and connected. Looks a little low when it's not connected. And on this side, again, about 1/4 to 1/8 of a coupler low. We'll see if that's a common theme and check the other SP locomotive, and that one is definitely low. At least half a coupler low, even coupled. And on this side, we are half a coupler, maybe have a 1/4 coupler low there. So overall, all 4 couplers have a variation of low coupler height compared to the KD height gauge with a KD coupler. Well, that's going to wrap up our review of the SP and EMD demo SD45X from Scaletrains. HO scale, obviously. I think there's a lot to be said about these locomotives, but again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the review, you are the judge and jury. A couple of things we didn't mention during the review. You see side walkway lighting there on the blue EMD version. It has that feature. That's a pro that I didn't mention during the review. I don't know if I showed you the gyro light in between the number boards there that's on right now. Cons include the F14 button. Instead of turning it off, just the number boards, it turned all the lights off and I had to recycle power to get it going again. And also the Scaletrains coupler wasn't playing very well with that boxcar right behind it. That is an SP boxcar. That is a Rapido boxcar, so I don't know what kind of couplers are on that, but was having a little trouble getting that coupled. So, you know, you may want to switch out to KDs if you have problems with that. Overall, though, a really solid locomotive as far as the ESU LokSound, the lighting features, LED, the walkway lighting. etc. So again, you be the judge and jury. I just give you what I can see from my quick look. Well, what did you think? I thought the EMD SD45X in a lot of ways was the same quality that you'd expect from Scaletrains. Pros and cons listed in the video, and all those metrics that allow you to make the decision for yourself on whether this is the right locomotive for you. If you do decide that you want a locomotive like this, I would suggest pre-ordering or purchasing right away, because things tend to sell out quickly. I don't know if the numbers are lower, or if people are just snagging everything up, but things are just selling out quickly, and pre-orders are kind of the way to go on stuff. But with that said, I'll leave you with a run by of the locomotives, and we'll see you next time right here on the channel. Take care.